Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumiritam Mina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikaye Tadaraye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Continuing the reading of Vedanta-sutra chapter 2. Now we have seen how Vedavyas is rejecting all kinds of wrong philosophy. And Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a natural commentary of Vedanta-sutra, also reject all theories opposed to the Veda, like the one who is preached by false teachers. The original Kapila, the original Buddha, the original Rishabha, they taught the real Sankhya, the real Yoga, the real Buddhism. But the followers of the pseudo-Sankhya, Yoga, Jain, Buddhism is rejected by Vedanta. Vyasadeva is saying now that Pancharatra is not opposed to Veda. According to Shankaracharya, the Pancharatra, which is a different line from the Veda, it is a parallel line. There's different kinds of Shastra, like we have Narada Pancharatra. This is one of the Pancharatra, so many different Pancharatra. Brahma Samhita also is considered to be a Pancharatra. Shankaracharya is saying that the Sutrakara, the one who is writing the Sutra, namely Badarayan, Vyasadeva, is saying that Pancharatra is also bogus philosophy. It is not in a line with Shruti, when it expounds the doctrine of catur-vyuha, the fourfold manifestation of Godhead. He says that when the catur-vyuha doctrine is saying that Jiva is born of Vasudeva, then it destroyed the concept of Brahman being one. But Shankaracharya didn't really understand the implication of the Pancharatra. For example, in one of the scripture called Pancharatra Samhita, there's a saying that seems to indicate that there's the origin of the Jiva. So it says, from Vasudeva was the supreme Brahman, and the primary cause of all causes, originate the individual soul, Jivo Jayate, called Sankarshan. From Sankarshan, the mind called Pradyumna is born, Mano Jayate. And from Pradyumna, the I principle, I, Ahankara Jayate, it is born, which is known as Aniruddha. So Shankaracharya is saying that the preliminary view, called Purva Paksha, this is the how Vedanta is working. First there's a proposition, then there's the problem, then there's an answer which is the wrong answer. It's called Purva Paksha, preliminary view, which is always wrong. Followed by Siddhanta, followed by the concordance of scriptures. That is the way it is done for every sutra. So Shankaracharya is saying that this coming sutra, which is Sutra 42, in the second part of second chapter, is saying that it is wrong to say that Jiva originates from Vasudeva. And according to the Upanishad, the Jiva is eternal, Nitya. It has neither origin nor end. It cannot be born, Jayate. But like I said, Shankaracharya didn't understand the meaning of Pancharatra. Because neither the Pancharatra Samhita nor any kind of Pancharatra, like Narada Pancharatra, is saying that Sankarshan is a name for the Jiva. Or Pradyumna, the name for the mind, Manas. And Aniruddha, the name for false ego or Ahankara. Sankarshan rather is the predominating deity of the living entity, the reservoir of all jiva. Pradyumna is the predominating deity of the mind. Aniruddha is the predominating deity of the false ego. Srila Prabhupada is quoting from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Actually, there's a section in the Adi Lila Chaitanya Charitamritam, chapter 5, text 41, is a very lengthy commentary by Srila Prabhupada, like 6, 7 pages, 10 pages maybe, for this subject concerning the arguments of Shankaracharya in this specific Adhikarana, that is the subject matter we are dealing with, the Pancharatra, namely Vedanta-sutra, chapter 2, second part, from verse 42 to 45. So this is what Prabhupada is writing. This is an extract of Prabhupada's commentary. In commenting Vedanta-sutra 2.2.42, Shripad Shankaracharya has claimed that Sankarshan is a jiva, an ordinary living entity. But there is no evidence in any Vedic scripture that devotee of the Lord ever said that Sankarshan is an ordinary living entity. He is an infallible plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Vishnu category, and he is beyond the creation of material nature. He is the original source of the living entities. The Upanishads declare, Nityo Nityanam Chitanas Chitananam. He is the supreme living entity among all living entities. Therefore, he is Vibhu Chaitanya, the greatest. He is directly the cause of the cosmic manifestation and the infinitesimal living beings. He is the infinite living entity, and ordinary living entities are infinitesimal. Therefore, he is never to be considered an ordinary living being, for that will be against the conclusion of the authorized scriptures. Now, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita say that there is two quadruple forms, catur-vyuha, chatur 4-vyuha form, 2 catur-vyuha. One in the spiritual world called Mula Sankarshan, coming from Mula Sankarshan, there's Vasudeva, who is Krishna himself, and Mula Sankarshan is Balaram. And Balaram, from him come all the Parshad of all the associate of Krishna and Nitya Muktas, they always liberated souls, never conditioned. The mother and father of Krishna, they are expansion of Baladev Prabhu, and also the Sakya and everybody in the entourage. Of course, the gopis are not manifestation of Baladev, the manifestation of Srimati Radhika. And the Guru is a manifestation sometime of Baladev, sometime of Srimati Radhika, depending on the mood. So this is the first, catur-vyuha. And he will expand also creating the Vaikuntha planets also. They're coming from Baladev Prabhu. Now there's Maha Sankarshan. Maha Sankarshan, this is from the second catur-vyuha. The Vasudev in this catur-vyuha is the predominating deity of Vaikuntha, and then you have Karanodakshai Vishnu lying down in the ocean of creation. This is Maha Sankarshan. Maha Vishnu, he is the reservoir of all living entities, and so that is why Sankarshan sometimes is called a jiva. Because he represents the entirety of the jiva, and sometimes they call samashti jiva, which means the total agglomeration of jiva. But he's not a jiva. From him come all the jiva. So catur-vyuha, then there's Pradyumna, then there's Aniruddha. There's just from Mahavishnu, then comes Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, then Kshirokshayi Vishnu, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. So catur-vyuha is the full-fledged Godhead. It deals with the problem in philosophy and especially in metaphysics of the one and the many. You see also in Greek philosophy, all Plato, the work of Plato is based on the solution of this problem of the one and the many. If you say that the truth is one, then how do you account for the variety of things in this world, of people, living entities, and things, how there's so many things. So the relationship between the one and the many is actually all Vedanta. All Vedanta problems is about this relationship between the one and the many. Shankaracharya is saying this relationship is illusory, it doesn't exist, it is not existing, it is just an imagination. And Madhvacharya is saying there's two. There's on one side this oneness, on the other side this manyness, this duality, and Ramanujacharya is saying that the many are the attributes of the one. Just like you have a chair, the chair has 4 legs, has a seat, has also a specific color, made of specific material. It can be made of wood, it can be made of steel, it can be made of plastic. And so, therefore, there are many attributes to one object. So, Brahman as is object. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu summed it up by saying Achintya, Beda, Abeda. It is all these different attributes with the one Godhead which makes it full. So, catur-vyuha should be understood like this. How they are in this world, galaxies and planets and mountains and trees and ocean, and in the ocean so many different species of fishes and algae and all kinds of living entities on earth, water and fire. All this come from the one. This is all Vedanta. Janmadiyasya yataha, from whom everything generates, and then everything is going to come back into the oneness. Srila Prabhupada explained further on in Chaitanya Charitamritam. How can we explain this one and then there's many things, and that there's no contradiction within Brahman, who is one without a second? The followers of the Pancharatric principles do not accept any difference in knowledge and qualities between Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. The devotees accept all these expansions to be one. But why should they restrict oneness to the quadruple expansions? Certainly we should not do so. For all living entities from Brahma to the insignificant ant are expansion of Vasudeva as accepted in the Shruti and Smriti. Srila Prabhupada is saying that the one can become many, meaning millions. The Christian dogma of the Trinity, 1 in 3, is thus limited. Why should we accept only 3 principles in the one? Why not 4, catur-vyuha, 5, like the Panchatattva, or even millions? God is one, that means He's 2. Radha, Krishna, then He's 3, then He's 4, then He's 5, then He's 6, and then unlimited. Srila Prabhupada is giving that example in a Brahma Samhita. Just as one flame is transferred to another flame and acts as the original, so the Vishnus who emanate from Mula Sankarshan are as good as the original Vishnu. One should thus worship Govinda, who expands himself in that way. So this is the meaning of this Saguna Nirguna. Brahman is without material qualities, called Nirguna, Nirveshesha. And when he's with his attributes, with his Shakti, he's called Savishesha, Saguna. God is one, but He's also million. This is how He's one. The poet William Blake, he says, to see a world in a grain of sand and an eternity in 1 hour. the world is contained in the grain of sand. If you examine an atom, you will see a world, a galaxy. Actually, you'll see it's also everything is turning around a neutron, the protons and everything. And within a drop of water, there's an entire ocean. And within our bodies, there's also a universe. There's so many living entities living within our body, thinking, wow, what is this big universe all about? Speaking about our body. So this is the how Om Purnamada Purnamidam. This Purnam, this fullness, this oneness is always one, even if it expands so many times. You can subtract the one from the one, it always is one. Purnam. God is one. Everything in the world is one and many. Language also is like this. Language is one if you cut it to different words. But if you want to make a sentence, then there's many different letters combined together to form a word, combined together to form a phrase, combined together to make a paragraph if you're writing. Then a chapter, then a book, an encyclopedia, a library. This is how it works. One, the alphabets, different letters, they combine to form words. The words combine to form phrases. The phrase combine to make a paragraph combined to make a chapter combined to make a book, and a book combined to make an entire library. So many different books, unlimited books, but it's all one based on language. Same thing about everything in the world. I spoke about the drop of water. Everything is contained within that drop of water. So the Pancharatra literature, like the Brahma Samhita, Narada Pancharatra, and so many other different kind of Vaishnav Pancharatra, can easily be understood because they are in clearer language as the Vedas, who are very esoteric. The Vedas are written in esoteric form in a very, very old and complicated Sanskrit language, so you need someone to know all this and how to pronounce it. And the Pancharatra were taught by Narayan himself. Actually, even Shankaracharya acknowledged the validity of the Pancharatra teaching, different than this catur-vyuha. He says in the introduction of his Bhagavad Gita, Narayano paro vyaktat, that everything comes from Narayan. The avyakta, the non-manifested, come from Narayan. So this is the Pancharatra, and Srila Vyasadeva is not saying that it is not bona fide. It's saying the opposite. He's saying actually this is the bona fide way to understand scriptures through Pancharatra. 4 different verses, 4 sutra in this Vedanta-sutra explaining this, and Srila Prabhupada explaining in Chaitanya Charitamritam Adi Lila, chapter 5, in 10 pages, at least 10 pages or more, explanation how Shankaracharya has wrongly understood what is the meaning. So Shankaracharya very often contradicts Srila Vyasadeva, and we should be aware of this, not to be fooled by some so-called interpretation. Maybe it is complicated, maybe Pancharatra is a little complicated, but mind you, all of our initiation and installation of the deities are based on Pancharatric rules. How to install the deity, how to construct a temple, how is the initiation doing, and even all these different samskara that we go through life, like described by Gopal Bhatta Goswami in his samskara books, is based on Pancharatra literature. So there's no way to avoid it. Pancharatra is the deity worship also. Everything is based on Pancharatra. It's easily understood. And it is a way to Godhead. We'll see later on what are the practices that can lead us to the ultimate goal, Prema Bhakti. Vanchakalpa tarubhyacha kripasindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.